Hello, and welcome to the Butterfly Sage. Today we're going to be planting some Banana Cream 2 Shasta daisies and some Plumbago ceratostigma. So let's start with the Banana Cream 2 Shasta daisies. Now this Banana Cream 2 is the new and improved version by Proven Winners. I'm not sure what the difference is between this version and the original version, but this one starts off with yellow, creamy colored flower blooms, thus the name Banana Cream, and then that yellow bloom fades and turns to white as the bloom ages. Now, so some of you don't freak out. What I'm doing is I'm adding soil to already amended and composty soil. I am not adding soil in a hole in my red clay. We've already amended this area, and I'm adding soil because my husband made the holes too deep for this plant. So otherwise it would have just been, I was planting it in straight bark dust. So I needed to add a little bit more soil, but this is not going directly into red clay. This is going into already amended soil. Shasta daisies, this particular one gets about 20 to 24 inches tall and 20 to 22 inches wide, so it's roughly 2 by 2. This plant is good for zones 5 through 9. It requires full sun and good drainage and blooms in spring and summer. Now, not only is the Shasta daisy pretty, but it's also a good nectar source for butterflies, specifically the red admiral, the tiger swallowtail, the painted lady, and the cabbage white butterfly. Of course, the cabbage white butterfly literally eats almost everything. That's why they're so common, because they're not picky eaters. But I mostly see painted ladies on my daisies, and that's probably because daisies are a host plant for painted lady butterflies as well, which means they lay their eggs on them. And if you want to bring another couple host plants to bring in painted ladies, try hollyhock, sunflowers, or pearly everlasting. Wish you guys could see these pretty flowers. So this is what I'm looking at as I'm planting these daisies. It's so pretty. It's just hard to ignore all those pretty flowers. Now, those blue flowers is ageratum. There's so many different pronunciations on that flower, but that's all I'm going to say, ageratum. And then over to the left there is some ARP rosemary. And beyond the blue ageratum to the right, those roses are Litchfield angel. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And then the tall yellow things behind the ageratum is some coreopsis. Now, it was an annual seed packet. It might be a perennial for me. I'm not sure. I'll have to wait and see till next year. I also grew this blue salvia from seed. It's finally bloomed now that it's fall and almost done. I'll plant this kind of salvia again next year because it's so pretty, and I'll try to do it earlier in the season. Reason 254 why I don't spray. Little ladybug. I love these names. Okay, so now it's time for the plumbago to get planted. It drastically needs to get in the ground. Now, there are several different types of plumbago, and the type I'm planting is the cold hardy one, ceratostigma, and it is basically kind of like a ground cover. It's supposed to get around 10 inches tall. I think this one that I'm planting is a little bit taller than that. It's supposed to spread out to about 18 inches, but it can spread by rhizomes. So just be aware of that. It is not listed as invasive in my area, but just make sure in your area it's not listed as invasive. This particular cold hardy plumbago is good for zones 5 through 9, and it's drought tolerant, pretty cold hardy. They say it can go down to 10, but I don't know if I'd risk it if you get below 20. We rarely get below 20. If it does freeze, it will die back, but it will come back up and pop up back in the spring. Now, this plumbago ceratostigma can be a great nectar plant for swallowtails. Now, if you live down in Florida or Texas, specifically the peninsula part of Florida, if you planted Plumbago auriculata or Plumbago scandens that will attract the Cassius blue butterfly. If I lived down in Florida, I would totally plant those plumbagos because I love blue butterflies. So that's the Plumbago auriculata and the Plumbago scandens. Now, those are not technically a ground cover like the ceratostigma. The auriculata can get taller, a lot taller than what I am planting here. But you need to live in a warm zones to plant those particular type of plumbago. Those auriculata and the scandens, I believe, are in zones 9 through 11 and probably would not make it where I'm at in zone B. So it's a different day, and my husband's teaching me how to use the tractor and drive it with the tiller. I've driven the tractor plenty of times, even with a disc, but the tiller takes on a whole different there's lots of different levers and stuff you have to use and make sure the tiller's up when you're turning. So it's definitely a new experience for me. Now, don't laugh at my crooked lines. I'm not driving straight. I do get better. So my husband had to walk with me alongside the first couple times I drove around just to make sure I was using the levers and dropping it and raising it as needed when it was supposed to. And of course, our tractor's a little bit old, and the hydraulics on the back of the tractor do not work all of the time. It only functions some of the time. The front hydraulics with the bucket work just fine, but you just have to jiggle the lever and turn off the tractor every now and then when the hydraulics don't work. I've definitely got the hang of it at this point, and I've been driving for about 2.5 hours. It's just slow, tedious work. Okay, so now let me take you with me on the tractor, and you guys can see what I'm seeing when I drive down the hill. Okay. I have no idea what my tractor just hit that caused it to stop like that. Don't worry, I'm okay. Everything's okay. The tractor seems to be okay. I'm hoping the hydraulics didn't go out completely. That's a big expensive fix, but... So I'm going to have to go get my husband to see what was wrong with it. But until then, pretend we're on the tractor, and I'm going to show you what I wanted to show you while I was driving it. This view. Now, normally it's a little bit more green than this, but this October has been really hot and dry, and I didn't notice how tall those blackberry briars were until after I got off the tractor. You can see over them much better in the tractor, but I still think this view is very pretty. So I will leave you with this, and until next time, feed the pollinators for me.